My name is Ellen Frost. I am the owner of Local Color Flowers. We are a floral design studio located in Baltimore, Maryland. We source all of our flowers locally, which is how we got connected with Lisa originally. And I offer 2 online courses through Lisa's platform, one called Growing Your Business with Local Flower Sourcing and one called Preparing to Sell to Florists. So if you're interested, you can check those out. I also write a weekly newsletter called Flower Nerd, and if you're not already on the email list, I would suggest joining the email list. The newsletter is awesome, and if you join during this demo or right now, at the end of the demo, we'll be raffling off one of the Floral Genius flower frogs. This is a hairpin frog. It's my favorite frog, so if you're interested, you can sign up and maybe you will win. And you can learn all about the stuff that we do, our weekly newsletter, our weekly YouTube videos, our online community. Everything is at ellenfrost.com, so you can find everything there. Oh, sure, jump in. And yeah, we have business cards up here too. So today I'm going to be doing just a really simple mason jar design. And mason jars, I know some people probably think, oh, they're passe or they're too simple, but let me say that mason jars are still popular. We still use them all the time, both for everyday events and for weddings and more special events. They are an American-made glassware, so that is awesome. And I'm going to show you just how we make simple mason jar bouquets today. And since it's a small group, if you have any questions, feel free to just holler out, because I can talk a lot and it's better if you interrupt my chit chat. All right, so the first thing I do is I always start with foliage if I have it available. Sometimes in the winter I don't have foliage available, or if it's early spring. So today I'm going to be, all of these flowers are grown by Lisa too on the farm. So this is a good sampling of what we would have in Baltimore as well. So I'm going to be using some basil as my foliage. And the first thing I want to do, this is a branchy stem, so I try to get 2 cuts off of it because I'm cheap and I like to use the most I can out of my flowers. So I'm going to use 2 stems of this basil, 2 little cuts. And because I'm not using any mechanic, and a mechanic is just a thing like a frog or chicken wire that holds your flowers in place. So it could be floral foam. We don't use floral foam, but that is a mechanic. Since I'm not using any mechanic today, I'm going to be putting my stems in, at least in the beginning, at an angle, because this is a wide mouth jar. It's too big to kind of keep things in place. So I'm just going to be putting things in at an angle, and it's going to be a really symmetrical design. So it's just going to go around in a circle really simply. And when I get started, I like to use my foliage to kind of be the bones of my arrangement. So what that allows me to do is figure out what the shape and the size of my design is going to be first before I put flowers in. So trim up this a little bit. I also want to make sure that I'm cleaning all of the leaves off of my stem that's going to go in the water. This seems like a simple thing to skip, but really any leaves that go in the water are going to make your water dirty and make your flowers die faster. So whether you're doing design or you're selling to a florist, I always encourage people to make sure that all of the leaves, even if it means composting little side shoots, to make sure all of the leaves are off of your stems. So I'm using a Lazy Susan today. You don't have to use a Lazy Susan, but if you're designing in the round, make sure that you are turning your design, because at least for me, I can get like obsessed with how good one side looks, and then the back side looks like I forgot to do anything with it. So a Lazy Susan is a good way to remember to turn your design, but you can just do that manually. All right, so I've got my foliage in. It's just using a little bit today. The next thing I'm going to put in is a line flower. So foliage, the next element I always try to use in my designs is a line flower. And a line flower is a flower that grows up the stem as opposed to a face flower. So you see the difference. Today I'm using plume celosia, but you could use snapdragon, stock, larkspur, delphinium, any line flower. And again, I'm going to make sure my stem's nice and clean. And what a line flower does in your design is it leads your eye to the center of the design where your focal flowers are. That's its job. So yes, it adds some height, it adds some color, but it also is there to focus your eye on the focal flowers. And let me say something about measuring as I go. I've made probably thousands of mason jar designs, so I have a lot of muscle memory about how I should cut my stems. But if you're just learning and you're like, I'm not really sure how to figure out what the stem length should be, you can always take your design and put it right at the edge of your table, and then you can hang your stem off of the edge. So just see, okay, I think I want it right here, then you can just trim it off at that point. That's an easy sort of beginner measuring trick that anybody can use, and I think it takes a lot of the guesswork out. When I'm making a design, I'm always thinking about the proportion of flowers to the vase. So usually I want my flowers to be no more than 1.5 times the height of the vase. So that's for sort of symmetry. Of course, you can break all the rules. Once you know the rules, break them if you want. Make it short, make it very tall. But for the most part, 1.5 times the height of the vase is about where I want to stay. So that's about, I think I'm about there right now. So you can see I'm just doing 3 line flowers. I like to do things in odd numbers. Odd numbers are really the way designers use their flowers most often. Using one of something, like one of something, especially with a face and a center, is going to draw your attention just to that flower while there's a bunch of other stuff happening in the design. So we try to tend to stay away from just one of something in a design, unless it's like the most beautiful dinner plate dahlia and it's huge and it doesn't fit anything else. So then maybe you could use one. The other thing I try to avoid is 2 of something, because again, 2 of something draws your attention to those 2 and it gets the eyeball effect. And really, the eyeball effect drives me crazy, and I try really hard to not have that in my designs, because it does take away from looking at the rest of the design. So 3 of something, 5 of something, odd numbers, that's really how we tend to use them in our designs. So I've got my line flowers. I think I'm going to stick with 3 right now. I might put 2 more in, but we'll see. Next thing I'm going to put in are some focal flowers. So I've got 2 face flowers today. I've got rudbeckia and I've got zinnias, and both are, very popular summer flowers. And I'm actually going to use this sort of darker rudbeckia mixed with the yellow, because this is really a great sort of transition flower between the pinks and these other yellows that I'm going to use. It's got a little bit of the pink in there, but it's got an undertone of yellow. So it's a great way to combine those 2. So I'm going to use, again, 3 of these. And I'm still putting them in at an angle. And one thing to notice as I'm putting them in is that I'm varying the heights of my flowers, because as we're designing, we're always designing from the top down. So what I'm looking at is sort of the top of the design. But if you are sitting at a table where my design is, you're going to see things at eye level right here. So I don't want all of the flowers to be up at the top, like I call it the umbrella. I don't want it to be all flowers and then nothing around here. So I am going to vary the heights of my flowers enough so that you'll have some focal flowers closer to eye level, like down here, and then still some up at the top. All right, any questions so far? Everybody's so quiet, and I'm so talkative. Nobody?
So you always start low and go up?
I start from the outside of the design. So everything is sort of, because I'm not using a mechanic, everything falls to the edge. So, right, I'm starting from the outside and I'm working my way into the center. Yep. So next I'm going to put in some zinnias. If you have followed me or Lisa and I did a podcast about zinnias, I think last summer or 2 summers ago, because I had some blasphemy where I said I don't love zinnias, and I got like hate mail because of it. I do like zinnias. It's just that they are a challenge for us as florists because they have so many issues. One being that they can't go in the cooler, right? It's not recommended to put zinnias in the cooler. So for us as event florists, we're often making centerpieces a couple days before a wedding. So then what do? We can't leave the flowers out in the shop in the heat. We can't put them in the cooler to get black. So they are a challenge for us in that way. The other thing is that I know zinnia meltdown in some parts of the country are not a thing. It is definitely a thing in our region. And they're unpredictable. And I don't love unpredictability. I like flowers that do what they're supposed to do, not some that like will turn black when I don't know why. And so I do love zinnias. I love how they look. My next design at noon is going to be an all zinnia design just to prove that I like zinnias. But they are a challenge for me. But as local growers, zinnias are one of the main flowers that florists cannot get from a wholesaler. Either grown well, they don't ship well. So if you're a local grower growing zinnias, that's definitely a crop that you can sell to a florist because they're not getting it from somewhere else. All right, so now I'm going to put in what I would call maybe like a secondary focal. It's a face flower, but it's small. It's not the main thing. So I'm just putting in some cosmos. I think these are the double click. I like both cosmos, the singles and the doubles. The doubles seem to hold up a little better for us. And I'm not sure if that's our growers harvesting and post-harvest technique or what, but we are seeing a little bit more reliability from the doubles.
I think I've seen that too.
Yeah, I love the singles, and they're great for especially centerpieces, but I sometimes try to steer away from the singles in like a bridal bouquet unless the bride like really desperately asked for it, and then I'm really careful to make sure it stays in water until she's going to use it. Just because there is some, wilt possibility. All right, so next I'm going to add what I would call maybe a little bits and piece, which is just sort of the ending little piece. These are strawflowers, but you could use any small, little, whimsical thing that maybe a traditional florist would skip because they're like, okay, this is good enough. Or those little bits and pieces, they're so annoying to like clean and they're so small. But those are the things, honestly, that when somebody looks at your design over maybe a conventional florist, those are the things that they're going to say, oh, look at that little poppy pod in there, or look at that silene, or look at that strawflower, something different and unique that they wouldn't see in a traditional shop. So I always like to add these little pieces in at the end, and I can, sort of put them at different levels, but I do like to have some of them popping out high enough so that they feel like they're hovering a little bit over the design. I really want to make sure, because they're usually pretty small, that they don't get lost in the design. So I'm just going to keep these a little taller. And I've got some pinks and some oranges, which are some golds, I guess, and again, don't feel bad really stripping these down to, everybody feels bad taking the side shoots off, but you really want a nice clean stem. The other thing about having a nice clean stem, you can see these strawflower have these little nodules on them from side shoots, and a lot of flowers will have that when you strip them. Peonies, we just had one the other day, forget what it was, that I was trimming these little nodules off. You really want to make sure, or at least I do, because I'm not like a very confident designer. Sometimes I'll put something in and I'll want to take it out and change the location. And if you have all of these little nodules, it pulls everything else out with it. And especially if you're using, like we're going to do a chicken wire design later. If you're using chicken wire, that also can get stuck on your chicken wire. So I just try to make sure it's nice and clean.
You have that problem with the roses.
Roses we have it with, those often get stuck on our mechanics, so I want to make sure that that's nice and clean. All right, I'm just going to put a few more strawflower in, and then in terms of caring for your flowers once you are done designing with them, always, if you're buying or growing local stuff, you have the advantage of vase life over, I think, traditionally sourced flowers. So that's definitely something to promote. Cleaning the water every day is what we suggest our customers do. You can use flower food. We use it sometimes when we're doing designs for places like a restaurant where we know they're never going to clean the water or change the water. So we might put flower food in there. But if you're just doing for a home, a home arrangement, we just say clean the water every day. And the way we do it is take the entire design out. There's no need to feel weird like it's going to move around. Dump your water out, fill it back up. Make sure your vase is clean too, because any sort of bacteria in your vase is going to create a problem for your flowers. So you want to make sure that it's really clean inside the vase. And for most of my designs, if it's like a weekly design or just a design for home, I like to have about a third to about a half filled with water, because what's going to happen is that those stems are going to get mushy, like gross at the bottom. And every 2 or 3 days, I'm going to suggest just trimming the bottom of them, maybe a 1/4 inch, to give them a fresh cut, and that'll help them take up water again. So if your water is all the way up to the top of the vase, that means all of your stem's mushy, and cutting it off isn't really going to do anything. So try to have just about a third in there. Not so little that it's going to soak up and get dried up pretty fast, especially if you forget a day of cleaning, but enough that you can trim off the bottom pretty easily. All right, so that's just a really simple mason jar design. Like I said, we do a lot of these mason jars. This would be a regular single order for us. If we were doing a wedding, we'd probably make it a little bit fuller, but we do still do a lot of these for weddings. So don't shy away from mason jars. They're still popular. They're still fun. I think that they're one of the easiest designs to make, so definitely still give them a try. All right, any questions before we get finished? Anybody want to come up and sign up for the newsletter to enter the raffle to possibly win a Floral Genius Flower Frog? Anybody? There's sign-ups here and there's sign-ups here.
Would you ever put a mechanics on top of that? Because they do have those kind of like...
Yeah, the tops, like the wire tops. Yeah, I wouldn't, just because I am comfortable using it without it. But you absolutely could. And what that's going to do is give you a little bit more space between each of your flowers. So this might feel pretty tight, but that grid, you could do it with tape too, but most of them are metal. It's going to give you a little bit more space. But yeah, you can absolutely do that.
I've seen somebody use a chicken wire piece
with
the top.
Yep.
And had it.
Yeah, so the thing with that, one thing I'll say about the chicken wire is that when we use chicken wire, we try to have 2 points of entry. So we actually fold it over on itself. I'll show it. Right, because the flatness still gives you a lot of wiggle room, and what you're trying to do with the mechanic is keep things in place. So you could do it. This is a small enough design that things aren't sort of moving around, but like for a vase like this, if I just put a screen of chicken wire over it, there's still so much room for that stem to move around. So you can absolutely use a mechanic on it if you want, but we tend to, for this size, I tend to not.
So are you done?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thanks.
So I counted about 20 stems or so.
Yeah, about 21 is what we generally think for about this size.
And then you would sell that for?
Well, we sell them for $60.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
A mason jar is $60.
Okay.
So again, remember that we are retail florists. So
Right.
if you're a farmer doing design and selling to end users, remember that you should be pricing where a retail florist should be. I know that's difficult. I know it's uncomfortable. We could have a whole day of talk about pricing. But we retail our stems for about $3 a stem. So we're in that sort of range. Any other questions? Yeah.
That's my question, the number of stems, but can you talk a little bit about the tendency to overstuff?
Yes. If you go to my website, we have an entire guide about how to not overstuff, because it is one of the most common issues for beginner designers, even advanced designers. Here's, I think, a couple of things I would say when you're feeling like you are an overstuffer. One thing is that people are like, I have so many great flowers, I don't want to leave any out. I understand. However, more doesn't always mean it looks nicer. to be honest, because what it doesn't allow for is that each stem can't shine on its own. You're really like covering up stems so that they can't be seen. And sometimes people overstuff because they're afraid of perceived value. So they're like, I better put more in because people aren't going to want to buy this for $60 if they don't feel like it's really full. It's hard to back away from that, but I would encourage you to sell on, you know, a beautiful design and locally sourced things, and not feel like the filling of it has to be the thing that gives value. Another thing I would say is that sometimes, this is a technique I use all the time when I feel like I'm overstuffing. If I get to a point where maybe I feel like I'm 3/4 of the way done, I will put it in the cooler and walk away. Just even for 5 minutes, just 10 minutes to not be looking at it, then take it back out, then look at it and say, does it need 25% more? Probably not. It's probably fine the way it is, and probably your flowers are showing off in the best way. So even just like incorporating that technique, I think, can make you more comfortable. And then just getting, you know, comfortable with like the pricing and the value, I think is hard.
I think for growers that
Yeah.
stuffing, because you have access and you're not necessarily
Absolutely.
doing it in the same way as a florist for
Yep.
them.
Yeah.
Same way, but you should.
You should, absolutely. If you're doing a design, even if it's a market bouquet, you are a designer. So you are designing. And that means that just always more isn't always better. I know it feels like it is, and I hear growers, we have an online community where every month we do a floral design challenge. So it's a themed challenge, and everybody makes a design, they post it in the community, and then we have a little critique at the end of the month. And the growers are always like, I have so much good stuff, I don't want to not put it in. But every time we're like, but you can see if you step back from it, that it is like crowded, that you can't see everything, that people aren't being able to really appreciate what you've put in there. I always say make one, and then all those things that didn't get in, make a little bud vase for the person. Like you can always like add a little something, but more doesn't always mean a nicer design.
Do you put it in a box?
Yeah, so if we delivered, then, well actually, when we deliver to a house, we just deliver like this. We try to have as little like kind of packaging and products as we can. If somebody picks up at the shop and we know it's a gift, then we'll put it in a box. Or if Eric, like if we know they're just taking it home, then Eric will make a box that is not a fancy box, that's just a travel box, that's like a recycled box. Good questions.
Do you ever use the smaller
Yeah, sure.
jars?
Yeah, we use, we try to always use the wide mouth, so the pint or the quart, because it gives you a more ability to splay the flowers out. When you have that tighter neck, you're almost forced for the design to be more vertical, and we really want it to feel a little more horizontal. So the wide mouth, pint or quart, both are great.
And how do you price your quart?
The pints actually are pretty close to the quart because the opening is the same for the pint. So we usually price them, I think, about $50, but pretty close because it's basically the same amount of stems. So we just do a little bit off for the pint. Good questions.
Your online, you said your online community.
Yep.
Tell me about that, because I think I've heard something.
Sure. It's called Flower More, and it's a monthly subscription. So you can sign up for a month or for a year, however you want. And it is designed for flower farmers, gardeners, and people who just love flowers, but they want to learn more about design. So they want to get more comfortable, they want to gain more confidence, and really just have fun learning. So we have the Floral Design Challenge. That's a monthly challenge. Like this month we did, you had to make a design with a flower frog in a low bowl. So the majority of people who did the challenge this month had never used a flower frog, so it was a first time. So how we do it is I make a video showing people how I made my design. Then they make theirs at home, post a picture, and then at the end of the month we do a Zoom call where we put all the pictures up, everybody talks about them, and it's a great way to learn in a really supportive environment. Like, it's really like low stakes. Then we also in the community do a floral design book club. So we read floral design books and study other people's designs so that we can get better at our own designs. And then we do also lots of other, just like, picture if you were in like a Facebook group, there's daily posts of people's gardens or their farms or a struggle they're having or a podcast they listen to. It's all the things that you sort of want from social media without all of the other social media stuff. Yeah, it's on Mighty Networks. It's really easy to learn. We have our oldest member, I think, is in her 80s. She's picked it up and learned it no problem. So it's really easy to use. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a really great website. Yep, it's on the website, ellenfrost.com. What were you going to say here?
Did you ever get together in
Oh,
life?
yeah, thanks, Eric. Yes, we did. We also get together in real life sometimes. So the community's been around for about 9 months. And since then, we have gone to the Philadelphia Flower Show. We've gone to the Biltmore in Asheville. We have gone to the Maryland Daffodil Show, the 100th anniversary of the Maryland Daffodil Show. What else have we done in person?
Well, what's coming up?
Oh, Woolham Gardens. We did a farm tour at Woolham Gardens in Virginia. And then coming up, we are doing sort of a dinner party for members in Asheville before the ASCFG conference in Asheville. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. I think we've got about 6 community members that are also going to the conference. So yeah, it's a lot of fun if you're interested. Like I said, it's you can do it monthly or you can do it annually. And if you sign up for the email, you get a discount code for a reduced rate on the community. All right, any other questions?
How about a single variety? Just like
Oh, sure. A design with just one flower? Yeah, sure. Mono botanical. That's usually what they call it. We do mono botanical. Actually, we did a flower design challenge, a mono botanical challenge for Flower More. And all of those challenges are videotaped, so you can always go back and watch them. We do them a lot for like wedding work and event work, not so much for single order designs, unless it's like, I don't know, peony season and we're, doing a special on peonies. I love mono botanical. I think they're really fun. Actually, we do a weekly YouTube video and came up with a new idea to do sort of a spotlight on one flower and then do a mono botanical design with it. So you can sort of see all of the ways that you can use it in design. So yeah, we love them. We don't have, at least for single orders, we don't have a lot of people that are like, give me 21 plume celosia, but for wedding work, we do it a lot more.
And would you do just one, or would you like put a little something?
You could do either. I think the last one I did, what was the one I just did with Buplurum? Oh, sunflowers. We did there's an all sunflower video. Did it come out yet? Oh, it's coming out. We did 4 different varieties of sunflowers, and I did use a little bit of chamomile and a little bit of Buplurum just as like a filler. Yeah. And the sunflowers really showed off great, and yeah, they're fun. Yeah. They're really fun.
And would you say that's different than a straight bunch?
Straight bunch, yeah. So straight bunch, I mean, it depends. Like a straight bunch like Lisa has here, like a straight wrapped bunch, that means, it's not really designed. It's just a straight bunch, straight market bunch. But if you're doing a straight design, that means like, you're varying the heights, you're varying the way the faces face. I love doing those though. It really shows off how flowers are really versatile. All right, other questions?
I have a question about dry flowers.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of things that I'm drying because I have a lot of flowers and I don't have an outlet because I don't know what to do there. So I'm like, okay, well, let me dry them.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, some of them might benefit from being dehydrated.
Oh.
And like marigolds, for instance, that are fleshy.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried that, like dehydrating?
We have not. I haven't myself, but I'll tell you, marigolds dry awesome.
Oh, they do?
We dry so much. Marigolds is probably our #1 flower we dry. And they keep their color. Oh, yeah, they're the best. Because they keep their color, and in the fall, they're perfect for dried bouquets. Yeah, they're great for... We absolutely dry marigolds, just hanging. Yep, just hanging from the ceiling. Take all the foliage off. hang them from the ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
All right.
great.
All right.
Yeah, I've never dehydrated. I've pressed flowers. We're really low technology, so like in terms of like trying
Well, if
either.
you dehydrate it, you only get the flower.
Right.
Really, and then what do? Hot glue? Like,
Yeah, hot glue. See, I can't.
Yeah, that's
I have hot glued, but what?
Bloom House did dehydration.
Oh yeah, one of our employees who owns a flower farm did do dehydrated flowers and fruit, and they did garlands, which were really nice.
But you hot glue 'em.
But I can't. No, they actually strung them
Okay.
like with a.
So funny, I think they'd shatter.
Yeah, they used there's a lay needle, which I didn't know about. So it's a long needle, and they use those for stringing them.
Okay.
Yeah, a lay needle. That was new to me this year.
All right. Cool.
All right, other questions? I'll be around, so feel free to ask.